The time to build is upon us.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You know the greatest danger facing us? Ourselves.
A rational fear of the unknown.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
This is the Superhuman Academy podcast.
Good
What's
to
up,
see you.
man?
All good. It's raining here in London. Big surprise.
Right.
And to top it off, there's a little leak behind me. So if you see a bucket on the floor, the joys of living in a 120-year-old building. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that fixed, but hopefully,
Wonderful.
hopefully it won't start pouring down on the call. So all good.
What have you been up to lately? We talked I don't know, it's probably like a month ago or something.
Well, yeah. To be honest, it's been like crazy busy. So we've grown by over 1,000% in the last 9 weeks alone. So it's been all encompassing, like 12, 13-hour days at the moment. So
Right.
yeah, nothing much has been happening other than just trying to kind of service the demand. But it's all exciting, obviously. It's been the summer holidays as well, so we managed to go camping with the kids a couple of weeks ago. We headed to the Dolomites in Italy for a week as well. So yeah, it's been pretty nice to get some time with the kids, but it's been pretty full on, as you would expect.
You said
How's
you've grown 1,000% in 9 weeks.
Mm.
What does that what does that mean?
Means there's not enough hours in a day at the moment. But I think what kind of really happened with us is we really found our product market fit when we started to hone in on the people that were using the app the most. And that was mainly our everyday athletes, endurance athletes, and we started to pick up some really big names across sports world, be that triathletes, racing car drivers, NFL, NBA, and we started to really see like this traction from that kind of audience, and that obviously then pulls a whole load of other audiences in to really try and do some of the routines that these elite athletes do. So we really started to double down on that messaging and be the breathwork app for athletes, everyday athletes, and high performers. So since we really focused and doubled down on that area, we've really seen this explosive growth, which is exciting.
Okay, I think last time we talked, I didn't really ask you about the app. I don't know if you told me about the app. What's the app called?
5.5.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. That's like your email address and everything. Okay. Yeah, and you told me last time that 5.5, that's 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out breathing pattern. It's like a coherence breathing pattern, and that's best for overall health performance, things like that. Big picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So since we talked last time, because I already do a lot with breath and I think about my breathing pretty frequently, I've been practicing. I didn't even know there was an app. But I have, I do coherence breathing and things like that. But since we talked, I've been counting it as a long 5 seconds, basically in and out, practicing that. I don't know that I've noticed it being like feeling that much different from. I used to count longer than that, and of course, it's like the size of the second sort of matters, and I'm not using a timer. I'm just counting in my head.
Yeah.
Um, but can you explain to me what makes that specific time interval? Do you know like why
Yeah,
that is
so
helpful?
okay,
Or
but firstly, kind of the feeling you get from whatever exercise you're doing depends on the type of exercises and the goals you're trying to achieve. So when we kind of look at in that instance, the 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. So the optimal breath pattern for a human is somewhere between 4.5 seconds and 6.5 seconds. So 5.5 is kind of in the middle. We're all different. We all breathe differently. So when you look at your optimal resonance breath, coherent breath, you will start to see certain metrics that perform better when you find your resonant breath pattern.
okay.
So yours may be 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. Yours may be 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. But that's kind of gives you like optimal HRV and kind of many other kind of aspects. Now, if you're talking about feeling you're looking to get out of it, then clearly if you're expecting to be more more activate your relaxing state, your parasympathetic state, then that will obviously come from, for example, breathing out more than you're breathing in. you know, and nose versus mouth and all these things. So it really depends on the feeling that you're trying to get. But in terms of a biometric level and looking at, what type of shifts will work best for you, then, coherent breathing, resonant breathing, they're just a single type of something that will help
Mhm.
get certain people their goals, depending on what their goals are. A lot of the
Is it
time, it's kind of high.
possible to find that resonant timing without using any sort of external tech or anything like that? Like, can I find my resonance breath length just by internal
It, it,
testing?
you have to measure it because otherwise it's always just a feeling, and feelings can be deceiving. So the great thing is that we've now got the technology, accessible technology for everyone to measure it and see the effects for themselves. So yeah, and the good thing is that you can do that. There's different types of technology that you can do that with. Um, but clearly, if you wear like a Whoop or a Garmin, you can obviously kind of see that live. That being said, there's also optimal length of time that you should be doing it that obviously people
Mhm.
just clearly wouldn't know. So the goal kind of for our app is also to identify what's the best breath sequence for you at the best time of day for the best length of time in order to get that best effect from a biometric level or working towards your
And
goal.
do you have like wearables as well, or can you use like I was thinking about getting an Aura ring. I've thought about that a long time. um, I've never really been big into like wearables in general. I don't like stuff on my body, but I already wear a ring every day, so I might just swap it out. Um, like, could I just use that and plug it in somehow, or do you have your own
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. So every wearable works slightly differently. So yeah, it really depends. Could you be able to do it? All right, I'm not too sure. We do testing with every wearable, like ourselves, but it's not something that you're specifically asking in terms of what's your resonant breath, your optimal resonant breath. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure if it would happen with Aura. Should do, but I don't know. I haven't played with it enough.
What do you typically recommend?
Um, Whoop is great for it, but then again, you've got all these wearables, but you've also got certain technologies within certain apps as well.
Yeah.
So there is kind of an opportunity in some apps where you can actually not have a wearable, put your finger over the camera of the phone, and then take a live reading. And I'm not sure off the top of my head which apps they are, but that will also kind of give you some kind of level of indication that
Mm.
allows you to do a breath sequence, take your measurements without you even needing a wearable as well.
And does your app do that?
Not yet. No,
Not
no. So
yet.
we're kind of more agnostic
Well,
to all
this
wearable.
this
Like,
this episode will come out in probably like 6 months or something. So it won't be.
yeah, of course, isn't it? No, no. For us, the goal is, to connect your wearable and have a really seamless experience. So in the app
Yeah.
at the moment, you can connect your wearable and track your biometrics live in a class, and then your biometrics is fed into our system, so we can recommend the best class for you based off the goals you're looking to achieve. Be that running a marathon, sleeping better, be more focused, whatever that may be.
Interesting. Okay, I kind of forget. Did you get into this more from the tech side or more from the breathing side or neither? Where
Yeah,
did
it's good. Yeah, it's a bit of both really. So I started a company back when I was 23, and we built that to 300 staff globally, like 60 million plus in revenues, and we sold that in July 21 for north of 100 million. So it was a great exit, but it was also a challenge. 23 to 33. That's kind of a key years of your life, and you learn a lot about yourself in those years. And I became much more kind of focused on a passion of how I can kind of bring something to the world that create a positive impact. So when we sold the business, I'd been using breathwork very simply to balance my own stress and be more focused, but I found it boring. I found it very hard to build into my everyday life. So after I sold the business, I ended up studying with Patrick McKeown, who's the number one functional breath expert in the world, and trained with him the biomechanics, the biochemistry, the psychophysiological dimensions of specifically functional breath work. And it
Mhm.
allowed me to understand the science behind why it has the effect it does on us. And I realized there was this opportunity to bring that to the world in a way that was incredibly unique, but utilizing my technology background to allow it to be more data driven, more measurable, and ensuring that anyone at any time could do the best session for them based on their goals and their bodies.
Mhm. So let's say I have no tech whatsoever, but I want to become a functional breathwork guru genius person. Walk me through it. What should I do? And we can do some work here too. I'm interested
Yeah, no,
in just
sure.
the
So
breathing.
I guess the key thing is understanding what makes a dysfunctional breather and a functional breather.
Mhm.
So, nose, for example, versus mouth. We should be breathing through our nose all the time, not our mouths. You should be breathing from your diaphragm, not high up. You should be breathing, deep breaths, not shallow breaths. Now, all of these are signs of being a functional breather or a dysfunctional breather. Now, the truth is 99% of us are dysfunctional breathers, right? Because we live in a world where stresses get to us. And even when you're scrolling through social media or replying to an email, our breath patterns are changing in those moments. And that breath pattern is actually incredibly harmful. So when you are a dysfunctional breather, there's a whole host of issues that arise from that. Because if you're breathing in a stressful state, your body is under threat. Now,
Yeah.
your body doesn't know if that's real or not. So it's still going to create the same problems, be that cortisol level increase and all these other areas that are harmful to you. So, that kind of level of awareness is step one. And once you have that level of awareness, obviously it's about, really kind of practicing your breathwork techniques and allowing you to also, fit that into your life in a way that, again, you're trying to solve certain problems in your life. So, for us specifically, we focus on, supporting a lot of athletes perform better, recover faster, sleep better. But also, how can we kind of ensure that, in any moment when someone's feeling stress, we can give them a session to fit that that of where they are in that moment and de-stress them before they get into that downward spiral and before they create that kind of negative effects on their own bodies. So that's kind of where we kind of really start focusing in terms of the biometrics and starting to use those biometrics in a way that allow us to proactively give classes to users so they don't see those harmful effects, as well as educate them on how they should be breathing on a day-to-day basis.
I'm curious, and no judgment. Uh, have you eliminated dysfunctional stress from your life?
No, no,
No.
and to be honest, I don't think anyone can. Right? I think the key thing is that when I'm feeling a certain way, I'm aware enough. The first thing I do is focus on my breath, and I'll
Mhm.
switch in that moment. And, it's just like your mind wandering. You can't help your mind's going to wander. But if you can be aware that your mind's wandering, you can quickly switch that in the moment and catch it. So you don't get that festering, snowball effect of something becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the key thing where, we all need to try and get to is just that awareness of what's happening. Is my breath pattern changing? And if you can change your breath, you can change your mind instantly. It's the most powerful thing. So that's kind of the awareness. But sometimes it may take me half an hour to even realize what's happening because you're in a moment, you're stressed, and you're in a fight or flight state. And other times, it might take me 10 seconds. So yeah, the challenge is how quickly can we recognize that and shift that.
Sure. And do you tend to just shift back to that resonant breath, or do you have some other favorites?
Really depends on what moment. So first I do kind of breath work every morning on a treadmill. So I'm naturally more resistant in general. But then if I am feeling like ultra stressed in a certain moment, driving, kids in the car going crazy, whatever it is, then I'll often just, I could do a physiological sigh, which is, a double inhale and a full exhale. Um, sometimes I'll do I don't think there's even a word for it, but I'll do a triple inhale and a long exhale. So the key
And
thing
is that triple through the nose into the belly,
in
or
through the nose, exhale
okay.
through the mouth,
Yeah.
to get this response. So I would go one like to 90%, to get that 10%, and then try and get like that 105, 110% on
Yeah.
top of it. So it's kind of even more so than that physiological side, that double inhale exhale. So if I get that extra squeeze. And when you got to get an extra squeeze, you open up like these air pockets called alveoli within your lungs, which essentially um, open up like new areas of your lungs that are also not utilized fully. So you're getting so many kind of effects from that, and you do 2 or 3 of them. I mean, straight away within 30 seconds, you've changed your whole physiology. Again, scientifically proven. That was proven by
Mhm.
Andrew Huberman in a Stanford study with Cell.com as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I would do in a certain moment. And say for example, like I've jumped onto this call, and just come off the back of a meeting, I need to quickly have a reset. So I jump into the app quickly, and I done like a mind trainer. So just to get focused at this moment, so I can come in, give it my all, and transition from a previous meeting to being focused for this one. So it really depends on the moment. Majority of my exercise is proactive every day, 5 days a week, typically every morning when I go to the gym on the treadmill. And then in any moment where I feel like I need a shift, I'll just do like a quick add-on. And these things can't be planned because
Yeah. Okay. Can you break down your specific treadmill routine? I'm curious about, like, I wanted to think more about the performance side of things. I use breathwork all the time for like stress purposes and like nervous system regulation, but I'm interested in it for like the improving VO2 max and things like that. Like,
Cool.
what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so if you take treadmill training for one, so if you think about Olympians and athletes, before they have a big tournament, they go to high altitude camps in Kenya and
Yeah.
places. And why do they do that? Because there's less oxygen in the air. Now, what that does is that trains their body on how to do more with less and transport oxygen more effectively and efficiently. So
Mhm.
when you do treadmill exercises, you can basically create that carbon dioxide tolerance in the same way, which essentially allows you to teaches your body to circulate through what's known as hemoglobin, release oxygen more effectively to your through kind of blood through to your muscles and your tissues. So that's kind of one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is lung capacity. So we can actually build our lung capacity, increase our lung capacity. There's been, there's people like, free divers have been known to increase their lung capacity by up to 40%, which is
Mhm.
crazy. So, so that's the other part of it, right? Which is if you're looking at stamina improvement, VO2 max, then lung capacity plays a crucial part of that as well. Another part of it is diaphragm activation. So there's certain techniques you would do even on a treadmill that essentially allow you to activate your diaphragm, which is obviously your core breathing muscle, that then allows you to breathe more efficiently, effectively, having the benefits of VO2.
Can you walk me through one of those right now?
Yeah, so for example, a really simple one is, let's say we'll do an empty breath hold. So we exhale, fully exhale. So you're like tensing all the air out of you,
Okay.
and you kind of hold that for however long the app's telling you to hold it for, and then breathe in. But obviously you're walking at the same time, so you're building up that carbon dioxide tolerance, and the faster you're walking, the more you're building it up. So that would essentially do multiple things. You are building up your CO2 tolerance, you're activating your diaphragm, you're building your lung capacity. All of these things are happening within those kind of few minutes of walking.
Would you mind guiding me through like the diaphragm thing right now? I like to do the exercise live on the call.
Yeah, so diaphragm is a really interesting thing because it's very hard to know if you are activating your diaphragm correctly. And I get this question a lot. So
Okay.
people often think that if their tummy's going out and in, their diaphragm's activated. That's not the case at all. Your diaphragm is positioned just below your rib cage, if not slightly under. Now, the best way to understand if you are activating your diaphragm isn't to see your belly going in and out. It's actually to put the hands on the side of your ribs, and your diaphragm should be filling your hands with as you inhale and exhale into your hands on your sides. So it's not about going forward and back on your tummy. It's actually
Oh, yeah, I can feel the
filling your
difference.
weight
Okay.
on the sides. And that's kind of a really good exercise to start understanding, are you activating your diaphragm? Then you can start to go even deeper than that. So you have a lot of athletes, people like Steph Curry, who like as soon as they've like done a workout, they'll go lie down and they'll stick like a weight. I don't know if you can see behind me, but like weights over there, and they'll stick a weight on their diaphragm. And what that often can do is, that they'll watch their diaphragm going like up and down with the weight on it, but the weight of it is also, you know, pushing their diaphragm, so they know they're activating it
Mhm.
as well, because it's a very hard muscle to know because it's so deep. People don't really know if they're doing it correctly. And like anything, it takes practice. So for me, when I'm kind of really focused on diaphragmatic breathing, I'm putting the hands on the side of my ribs. I'm feeling them as I breathe in and exhale as I'm filling up my hands on the sides and breathing out. And that's a key indication. There's kind of like many aspects to it, but it's all about it's like any muscle that you're training, right? That you've got to kind of really be focused on that muscle at that time and really be conscious of it. Because as soon as something else distracts you, all of a sudden you might be breathing higher or you might be breathing
Sure.
lower and not activate the diaphragm. So yeah, hands on side is a great way of measuring that.
So when you're on the treadmill for your exercises, you're focusing on just breathing in through your nose, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
diaphragmatic breathing, and like Dean Karnazes told, like I read this in one of his books, I think, maybe Ultra Marathon Man, talked about how you'd only breathe through his nose on runs, and that like there's this kind of point where you want to shift to mouth breathing, like you feel like you're not getting enough, you kind of notice that point of like I want to open my mouth, and that's the point, like that's where you're kind of pushing your boundary and like don't open your mouth, like keep breathing in through your nose. Is that basically what you're talking about? Like training that, going beyond the comfort?
Yes. So you're training that tolerance level, and it's trainable. It doesn't feel like at the start, and you'll have to take a step back before you can really go for it, right? Because if you're in like a zone 2 and, kind of you're doing like nose breathing, then that would become easier than your zone 5. So, but you have to start somewhere. So, we know the science is very clear that, we should all be breathing in and out of our nose. There's nothing in our mouth that is designed for breathing. Our mouth is designed for eating. Our nose is designed for breathing. Even everything from, kind of the filter and how it moistures the air and all these things is incredibly important. So, yeah, the nose breathing aspect for athletic performance, be that kind of marathon and everything else. Yes, you're going to get a point potentially, especially if you're kind of going past a certain zone, whereby you're going to want to breathe through your mouth, and that's also okay, right? If you need to get air into you, get air into you. But it's important that you keep on building that tolerance, and eventually you'll get to a point where you're just not needing to breathe through your mouth anymore. And that's why you get so many kind of marathon runners now and other athletes that are kind of taping their mouth shut. So they're literally just.
Have you personally reached the point where you never have to breathe through your mouth if you're really hard?
Yes. So for me, I could go quite comfortably. I don't run marathons, so it's hard for me to kind of judge on that. But yeah, like so I could run comfortably in and out and breathe in and out my nose. Yeah. But again, like I've been doing this for, you know, 3 years. And also there's other tips as well that can really help that tolerance, like mouth taping at night, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And this is kind of a big trend at the moment because it basically guarantees that you're breathing in and out your nose at night time, which activates your parasympathetic system and sends you into a deeper sleep. So that also helps with these things, because if you breathe poorly at night, then you're more likely to breathe poorly in the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've also heard about these like there's these breathing devices that like create breathing resistance. What's your thought on those? Do you use those? Think they're bull crap? What?
Uh, you know, um, I haven't used them, but I have seen like studies that kind of use them, and there are kind of like good studies that show kind of good aspects of
They're at the
results.
mouth, right? Like they're specifically over the mouth.
Yeah, but there's certain like, if you think about it, like when you're doing like there's certain things that you can do with your nose and mouth anyway. So how much is that going to enhance people's training? For some people, it might make a big difference. For some people, it might make a small difference. But just like, you don't have to go to high altitude in Kenya. There's certain exercises you can do that can mimic certain things like that type of training. So, if you think about it, like what does that do? That does help activate the diaphragm. But again, if you know how to breathe correctly from your diaphragm, if you're doing like fully empty breath holds and kind of getting where you're literally like no breath is in you, then that also kind of helps trigger some of the things that would also kind of work with. So like anything, I believe there's a lot of complementary tools that could help do certain things. I also believe there's hundreds if not thousands of different ways of breathing exercises that could help get good results as well.
It's very diplomatic of you. Um, I've poked you with this a couple of times. I'm really interested in doing some sort of exercise, especially one that you think might be difficult, without knowing really where I'm at. But like, is
Um,
there something that could be challenging that you could guide me through, and it could see where I'm at a little bit?
yeah, let's have a think. because usually I'd be kind of like walking around and stuff. So
Okay.
I tell you what we could do. We've done this on the call before, but I kind of mentioned it. You can do what's called a bolt score test, and that's a
Mhm.
body oxygen level test. And essentially, what that does is it just tells you kind of where you're at in terms of a tolerance level. Uh, and so, what we can do there is we can breathe. Kind of, you take a few inhales in and a few inhales out, and then a few exhales out, and on the last exhale, you'll basically pinch your nose and hold. And then when you're doing that empty breath hold, depending on what level you get to, so if you're like, under 10 seconds, that's not so great. If you're, 10 to 25, then you're kind of like not where you should be. If you're 25 to 40, you're a functional breather and you're doing okay. And if you're like 40 plus, then you're like at a really good level, like elite level.
And we should tell people on our first call.
Yes, yeah.
Go on the spot, and was like, "Okay, breathe out now, see how long you can hold it," and I clicked the timer.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like so.
Yeah, you can do it to me now, let's go for it.
Yeah, so
You
so
you
so
time me.
essentially, if you the idea is that you don't overthink it and you're not
Yeah,
pushing
yeah.
yourself to the extreme. This is just a measurement test. So it has its pros, it has its cons, because it gives you an indication, but it's easy manipulable because you can push yourself when you probably shouldn't. So we're looking for the first significant urge to breathe, right?
Okay.
So
So I
you
shouldn't try to just hold as long
yeah,
as I
don't hold as long as you
can.
can. But like, so, we would call it moderate. So if you can just take like a few calm breaths in, calm breaths out. Don't try and fill up your lungs fully now. Just take
Yeah,
normal,
normal, whatever for me is normal, yeah.
and then I'll time it. I'll time it my side.
Yeah, and you just tell me when to do my last exhale.
Cool. So as soon as so whenever you're ready. So breathe in, you breathe out, and when you're ready, just nod your head, and I'll start timing.
And I nod at the bottom of the exhale.
At the bottom of the exhale, yeah.
Alright, I'll do one more breath, and then I'll
You
do
can
that.
pinch your nose and hold, or you can just hold normally. Some people pinch their nose and hold, but either or. Ten seconds. So you're waiting for that first urge to breathe. You might start to feel the traction coming in your diaphragm as well. 25 seconds.
Alright, right there.
35 seconds. That's pretty good. So
Mm-hmm.
you're breathing well. That's kind of like a strong breather, we would say.
Cool.
So
I
yeah,
definitely could have held it a lot longer, but I was like, "Alright, I just felt
yeah,
that little switch of like."
you'll get those contractions coming from your diaphragm,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
just your body saying, okay, like this is enough now. Don't push me anymore. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Alright, cool. That's validating, I guess.
No, but that's good because if you're doing some kind of breathing practice, it sounds like, and that's obviously kind of like helping in some form, or exercise as well. It all kind of helps in the same way.
Yeah. Cool. Alright, well, I hadn't really tested that with a timer before with because I have, like, done long breath holds, but I've been intentionally, like, hyperoxygenating and
Yeah, and that, and
all.
that, and that's good, right? And I would say as well, when we're doing breath holds, there is kind of a lot of unknowns around when you hold your breath on an inhale versus an exhale,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of benefits to holding it on the exhale rather than the inhale, because that also produces nitric oxide, which is also really good when you kind of breathe in through your nose. Your nasal passage actually produce that on an exhale. So if you breathe out on an inhale, you're not breathing in the nitric oxide that is being produced. So ideally, you want to kind of go on a full exhale, and then get that kind of build up of nitric oxide and loads of other good stuff, and then you're breathing in, and that way you're getting that hit as well. So yeah, lots of other things.
Interesting.
Great.
Well, what's the benefit of nitric oxide?
Yeah, a few things. It's a natural like anti-inflammatory. It's a blood vessel dilator. So essentially, it expands our blood vessels. So we can move oxygen around our body more effectively and efficiently as well. So yeah, nitric oxide was always a bit like carbon dioxide. It was always kind of seen as a bad gas for many, many years. But in recent years, we now know, just like carbon dioxide, it doesn't necessarily mean what everyone thinks it means. So nitric oxide, especially natural nitric oxide that comes from stuff like breath training, is really good for you. So it's great to kind of make sure you kind of get that hit as well during your work.
So when I breathe out on an exhale, I hold. You said nitric oxide is being produced inside my nose.
Yes. Yes. As you breathe in through your nose, which is also important, why you don't breathe in through your mouth. So as soon as you've done the full exhale, you breathe in through your nose, and you get the additional benefits of that as well.
Weird. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Our bodies are weird things, right? But fascinating. And the thing is, these breath techniques, a lot of them have been around for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that's not new stuff, but only now are we really seeing all this science coming out about these different styles of breathing, and now it's become mainstream. So when you look at all the kind of major wearables, which is why they're so hot on it, because it's the number one thing that you can do in any moment to see direct physiological shift in real time, which is why we obviously in the app allow you to plug in your wearable to see the real time shifts. And even meditation things that don't want to take anything away from meditation, because it's great for many things, but even again, the Andrew Huberman study, mindfulness meditation versus breathwork came out on top. And as you would expect, because actually the benefits that you get from a physiological perspective, even from doing mindfulness meditation, is a shift that comes from the way that you're breathing when you're doing that meditation. So if you are doing a certain breathwork technique, you are guaranteeing you're getting that shift. Versus if you're doing a certain type of meditation, there's no guarantee that you're going to get it. It depends on how far you're into it and how you're breathing in correlation to that. And the same thing with music as well. Like when you're listening to certain types of music, naturally you listen to a slower song, you'll breathe more slowly. You listen to a fast song, you'll breathe faster. And that obviously has a different physiological effect as well. Hence why ambient classical music is obviously going to be a lot more calming and send you in that rest and digest state.
Have you personally experimented with different breathing patterns for the sake of triggering psychedelic states, things like that? Have you done much of that, or stick mostly to performance and health?
I have. I have, yes. It was actually probably one of the first sessions that I done of breath work, and I thought it was very powerful. I think, for me personally, it was more about how can I have a tool that can help me in my everyday life. And I think the type of breath work that I did was much more around you know, a kind of like a healing state and maybe more spiritual, which again is great for a lot of people, and a lot of people have amazing benefits from it. But it wasn't something that I could do beginning every morning and get to that level, before going into work or whatever I was doing. So yeah, this is obviously a very different world. That's more traditional breath work, and this is obviously kind of functional breath work. But that being said, there are huge benefits, and depending on what people are trying to get out of it, depends on probably which direction they would go. But yeah, it's not something you would do every day. But I think it's a good experience for people to explore it if they're looking to release some kind of trauma or have some kind of deeper level of experience, psychedelic style experience.
You're so diplomatic. Do people tell you that? It's
No, I no, not really. But I think for me, it's not. There's so many amazing wellness tools out there and wellness things,
Yeah.
and we are not a one size fits all, and everyone wants something completely different.
Yeah,
We are giving a certain type of person, tools that help them, become a better version of themselves. And some people just want to kind of, they've gone through a lot of stuff that they need to release, and then they'll be looking for something completely different. So it depends on what you're looking for.
Yep, and there you go again. Nice balance.
Okay.
Balance back and forth. That's what you want there.
I made a circle note. I'm going to be more critical of others now.
Oh, it's great. It's just it's funny. I'm guessing you've done a lot of interviews, and so you've
A fair
I mean, it's very diplomatic. You speak in nice tight sound bites.
Yeah, I've had to do a few over the years.
Yeah. Well, So, all right, just digging into. I'm just following my curiosity here. So you said that you had some interesting experiences. What was the most profound experience you had from breath work? And do you remember what the pattern was?
Um, I can't kind of sit here and say that I had like a life-changing experience when I done like these long psychedelic style breath work experiences. I didn't have that, but I do know a lot of people that have had that. So yeah, for me, it was more like for me, the experience was when I started to do functional breathing and realizing that I could change my state within seconds. So 60 to 90 seconds is all it takes. That for me was a game changer. That for me meant that whatever I was doing, wherever I was, I could, and some of the examples I mentioned before as well, like I could shift that, and that was exactly what I needed, for my everyday life, and that obviously we found that a lot of people need in their everyday lives. Um, and then I've spoken to a lot of people that when they've done that more traditional style breath work, that they've had kind of deep connections of lost loved ones, and even to the point I know a few kind of big instructors, and they've had um like people like ex-army kind of students that have just like full on like broken down, like a whole load of them in classes. um and I guess the level of PTSD aspects have been really helped in that sense as well. I've had, people have, out of body experiences. Um, yeah, I think so much depends on, what teacher you have, where you're doing it, and where you are at any moment in life. So to be honest, my studying hasn't been that well. I don't really know the science like I do know from a functional perspective,
Mhm.
but I do obviously mix with a lot of those types of instructors. And they are great at what they do, and get certain results based on people that are looking for certain things.
All right, I want to push you out of your diplomatic state into
Sure, yeah, yeah, go
full on speculation here.
for it. Go for it.
I'm curious. I've asked this to a couple people. I don't know if I have on the podcast or not, but like, what do you think about? Do you think that it's theoretically possible to control basically any system in the body, potentially cure or prevent any sort of disease using breathing or controlling or different like, do you think that stuff is theoretically possible? What's your personal perspective?
I do, yeah.
You do? Okay.
And I think we're just at the start of understanding that. And I think over the coming years, we're gonna see just how much it plays a role. Now, and there is already a lot to say of, the when you are stressed and the chronic illnesses and diseases that
Yeah.
can cause. And we know breathwork directly, goes against those aspects. So, it's not controversial as such, but I think, you know, um, how can we see it? And again, there's a lot of studies in this, even with cancer patients as well. And we've seen. I'm not saying that breathwork cures cancer or anything like that at all.
There's
But
diplomacy.
but we have seen, in studies that have been done on cancer patients, certain signs that are good signs to see from integrating breath work. And again, there's nothing kind of new there. This is kind of like well studied, and it's just science, right? Like if you can control your physiological state and give your body more of the goodness it needs, and avoid some of the toxicity that life produces, then you are naturally going to see better effects that come from it. But I think next few years we're going to see that come into the light a lot more for sure.
All right, I'll push you even further into speculation. Just theoretically, just playing around here. If somebody was able to get that like full control over their systems type of thing, how long do you think people could theoretically live?
Mhm. Yeah, well, that's a tough one. I there is a lot that's linked to longevity in your breathing, and just kind of breathing in general, respiratory issues, for example. And like we know lung capacity, for example, is directly linked to longevity. So that's going to be measured, proven, and science backed. Um, we know how long? Uh, no. because we had the studies haven't gone along for that long to really kind of judge that. But yeah, there is so much coming out of longevity right now, and if you think about all the key big names that are longevity experts, they all do breath work, right? Why do they do it? Because they're measuring the difference, and that they're doing it in their everyday lives. What does that create? It's very hard to say because no one has ever only done breath work and carried on with their lives. Actually, these longevity experts are changing everything in their lives as well as doing their breathwork routine. But yes, breath
Speculate for me.
yeah, but breathwork is absolutely linked to longevity. Be that lung capacity, be that respiratory health. Yeah, and we've also, I don't know if you read it, a great book. Have you read James Nestor's Breathe?
No.
Amazing book. And you actually have he talks about kind of a story of this doctor, a very well-known doctor that goes into these hospitals and people that are on their deathbeds and they can't even string a sentence together. They can't breathe oxygen masks. And what he does and the techniques he uses to essentially take these people off of their deathbeds and get them walking, get them talking and out of hospital again.
Mhm.
And I think what kind of happens, and this is like a big topic at the moment around carbon dioxide tolerance, is when people are shoved with this oxygen into their system, there's certain instances where that is going to be good for them, and there's certain instances where that is going to be bad for them. And yeah, you should read this book, and it's phenomenal, and it kind of opens up a lot around longevity and certain exercises that are designed to kind of heal certain diseases. And again, it's all been scientifically proven. And these people have actually created education systems for hospitals to use. Hospitals are dated, so I can't say they're always using the most up to date kind of know-how of what they should be doing any moment, unfortunately. But there is kind of a playbook there that is proven, and some hospitals do use it and some don't. This was obviously really highlighted in COVID times.
Mhm.
So by the end of COVID, everyone was familiar with how breath work can cure long COVID and all these things. At the start of it, people weren't even familiar with breath work and how they thought that once they had COVID, they were done for life. All these things, and obviously that's been proven time and time again. So our lead advisor Patrick McKeown, so he's written books just on breathing for long COVID, as well as 13 other books that are great reads. So yeah, there's a lot in there which directly correlates to not just lifespan, but also health span.
All right. Well, I'll speculate pointlessly just for fun.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I think people can live forever. I'll put that out there so people can throw me in the loony bin if they want to.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
I,
there was
I think I think even without um well, I guess it depends on what you call technology, but I think we have the capacity to adapt perfectly to our environment. And that pointless speculation, it's not totally pointless. I guess the non-pointless part of it is the like that sense of wonder and possibility is inspires me. I don't necessarily care to live forever, but um just the it's like reading really good sci-fi and then getting excited about what might be possible. I really like I like space race era stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of crappy things about that time period. Not really talking about that, but just that collective looking into the unknown and being fascinated and wondering what might we do, what might we find, what might we explore. And okay, do you feel that sort of wonder, curiosity about what's possible with the human body? Like, where are you at?
totally. Yeah, totally. I'm kind of curious by nature, and I'm always pushing. So I now follow Brian Johnson's blueprint
Oh yeah, that's that's so interesting.
dietary. So I'm having broccoli, cauliflower, lentils.
Oh,
But
you follow it, like, you actually do the same.
yeah, we do our own twist, and on weekends we'll kind of eat with the kids and stuff, do different things. But Monday to Friday we follow it.
Really?
Uh, yeah, because I think just I know there's so much science within breathing. We also know there's so much science behind what you eat. We're vegetarian anyway. So yeah, for us, yeah, like that is something that I'm very keen on, and I do absolutely believe that we are going to see the biggest spike in lifespan that we've ever seen within the coming decade. And I
Yeah.
also think that's only going to go one way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It seems very likely, assuming we don't all blow each other to smithereens. Fingers
Yes.
crossed. But I didn't know that. I didn't know you were following his blueprint stuff. Do you
Yeah.
also have you been getting blood work and stuff and seeing
Um,
changes?
I do like just sporadically anyway, but like every like year or two. But that's actually more just to be like more health conscious and not so much track changes as such.
Okay.
But yeah, kind of I would do blood work more so. Definitely now it's become a lot more accessible with some good companies that are making it.
Yeah. Have you? I mean, was that a big shift for you to shift onto that, or were you already kind of being
In
super
terms of
healthy?
the blueprint. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we were kind of healthy anyway. Yeah, yeah. We've always been very conscious, but still, no, we still had like bread and pasta and things. It being
Yeah.
vegetarian, when you go out, like there's only so much you can eat. And when you do go out, there is definitely a lack of things that are on the menu for you, and that's obviously kind of a
Mhm.
big problem, especially on weekends. So yeah, for me, kind of, we've only started it a couple of weeks ago actually, so it's still
Oh,
very.
okay. Very fresh.
Do I feel a difference? I think I do feel a difference. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not coming from an unhealthy dietary routine, so for me to start to feel a difference already, that
Hmm.
makes me, feel comfortable.
What is the difference that you feel so far?
Um, I would say, uh, energy levels, and when I say energy levels, that kind of is like the consistency of energy throughout the day. It's kind of waking up in the morning less fatigued. It's, it's, Yeah, I think that's probably that's probably the biggest shift I would say, that I've
Mm.
found. And again, like I'm very aware of just like I'm aware of how I breathe, I'm aware of my energy levels, I'm very aware of that. So I'm very confident that that's actually been a result of it because I would notice a difference in it because I'm that
Yeah.
about these things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so are you? Because he sells stuff, doesn't like are you, like, sourcing all your stuff from his company, or are you just, like,
I
following
just
his rough plan with
Yeah,
your
and
sourcing it?
I'm not doing the, 70, 80, 100 plus pills that he does every morning, not at all.
Okay.
No, no, this is purely just, he basically gives recipes of
Yeah,
what he eats, and then we kinda make our own versions,
I
of
see.
them. So yeah, yeah, definitely not kind of, buying anything. Not that I'm against that because actually I think there's a huge opportunity for someone to create like a blueprint chain and just sell and ship that to people's houses. It's a
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
we're seeing more of that sort of thing. I just talked to a guy the other day, I think he and I will probably record sometime soon, who he he's doing something not Brian Johnson level, but he has, like, vertically integrated his whole nutrition stack, like, he's got his own farm and all this stuff, and, like, I think he's got his own I don't know what you'd call that, like, his own pharmacy basically producing off and he's got this crazy shake that costs, like, $60 a day or something, but it's a little pricey for me, but I was, like,
uh,
really fine-tuned. And I've just noticed it seems like there's more of a surge of that, of people getting really curious about how far they can take it with their body and optimize everything, and that's so exciting for me. I've been kinda doing the same thing, but maybe less extreme. But I'm
yeah.
taking, like, 30 things every morning, so
Oh, wow, okay, I only
Yeah.
I take, like, 3 things every morning.
Okay.
Uh,
What are your 3?
so I have, vegan omega-3.
Okay.
Uh,
Mhm.
I have, vitamin D,
Yeah.
uh, and I have, creatine, and then
Um,
and then I'll have, like, a whey protein isolate as well
yeah.
after
Yeah, it's a pretty solid top 3. I mean, if you had to pick 3, it's not a bad
and
pick.
magnesium before bed as well.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Um,
yeah, I'm quite happy with that. But if there was, and there is a lot of evidence on many other things, but I think that's kind of like I feel like I'm getting 80% of the 100% by just doing those, 4 or 5 things, whatever they are.
Yeah, those are big. I've done a bunch of nerding out and spreadsheets and all sorts of stuff, and I've like rank ordered them a whole bunch of different ways, and the ones you just shared typically end up in the top 10. So,
Am I missing anything, you think?
for you, I mean, based on what you just said, I mean, if you're following Brian Johnson's like diet stuff, you're probably getting a lot of the important stuff from your diet or instead of supplementation. Um, I would be curious about like choline, how much you're getting there, and also be curious about like your potassium intake. But most people are way under what they could be doing there. So I'd potentially look at that. And as you said, you're eating vegetarian, so I wonder you might be missing some like amino acids from your profile. But I don't know if you're following Brian Johnson stuff. I'm sure he's got that covered somewhere, so you're probably
No,
probably
it's like,
okay.
yeah, no, they're all good call outs. And yeah, I think from the diet that we're having, yeah, it feels like that's kind of well thought out for some of those things actually, which is good to hear. Um,
Yeah, and he's huge on
I
like
always try and get it
olive oil.
naturally if I can, right? Because the other thing that people say, you're vegetarian, you're not getting enough B12, and yeah, that's something that I don't think is as black and white as people think.
Yeah, probably not. Like curcumin would be another big one. I wonder, are you taking that?
No, but that's come up on the list. I've been considering that actually. I've heard it's yeah,
Yeah. I unfortunately, well, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's just it makes it harder to notice. I just kind of started taking a bunch of things at once, so I can't be like, oh, when I started taking curcumin, here's the difference I noticed. It was kind of like, no, I just threw that in with them.
yeah.
Other stuff at
That
the same time.
it's always the challenge, right? Is how do you yeah, and that's what I like about Brian Johnson, where you can
Yeah,
segment it, right? And see like each individual difference. Because it's very and obviously you spend what 2 million plus a year on supplementation.
ridiculous. Yeah.
So yeah, very different, but I think the learnings that you can get from people like that are, and especially for me being vegetarian and he's vegan, yeah, that kind of really helps me kind of make sure that I am kind of having a well-rounded diet as well.
And are you taking K2 with the vitamin D?
No.
Really? Okay. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, and this is something else that's come up actually. Um, Yeah, so there are kind of like certain foods that obviously kind of like, and I'm no nutritional expert, but I understand there are kind of certain foods that we are getting good intake of that
yeah.
should give you a level of release, and depending on the time of day they're having them as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there seems to be like a few nuances of if you're having certain supplementation, make sure you're also doing this within a certain period of that supplementation, and that's kind of been a bit of a learning curve for me as well recently. So
Yeah, interesting. Well, I think I've successfully pushed you outside of your
yeah.
normal talking points a little bit, so hopefully. Alright, we've got a few more minutes, and I'm curious, so you talk about breathwork a lot. Obviously, you've got your company, you talk about that. You're doing this blueprint stuff as of a couple weeks ago. Um, if you if you didn't have to think about money, if you didn't have to think about, like brand, any of that stuff. Like, what are you just really curious, interested in, would love to talk about, but maybe don't, especially on like a more public platform. Typically, are you willing to share your other curiosities, interests?
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate because I've kind of like followed my passion. So that was a big thing when I sold my company. I was like, whatever I'm going to do next, I have to be like really passionate about.
Yeah.
Um, so and I actually genuinely wouldn't have started a business if I wasn't passionate about it, and I didn't think it was making an impact. I just wouldn't have touched it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think something that is very firmly in my world right now is the rise of AI, as is everyone. But for us, it's kind of like front and center of what's possible from a wellness technology perspective, and that's
Mhm.
incredibly exciting. So for me, that's kind of something that is, yeah, I'm kind of like I'm deep in that world now, and the
Yeah.
tools we have and where it's heading and what that means for us as humans, both good and bad um, is something that I'm really intrigued by as well.
Are you personally doing anything with AI that you think is kinda, like, unique to you, or at least you've kinda taken it further than anyone else that you know?
Um, I won't speak about that app specifically because there's stuff that we're doing I'm not allowed to talk
Sure,
about
yeah, it's fine.
very AI stuff
I
there.
get it.
I think what I'm trying to do is, I have 3 children and I'm I always like every like weekend, I will always do something that is AI related for them. So, for
Mm,
example, like we were just making a bunch of videos on, VO3 over the weekend, because I think it's really important that, this generation, they start to think about the questions they're asking, how we can use AI to actually bring more creativity, not less creativity, and
mhm,
start to think about those things. So when they are thinking about like, I think it was like a pig on top of a tree, like doing a burp, like they come up with these things, but now they're like, well, what kind of tree is it? Oh, that tree,
mhm,
okay. And who else is in there? What environment is it? Like, what kind of apples? And start to think about a picture that they form in their head that you can then start to bring to reality. So that's kind
mhm,
of one thing I do. Another thing I do with them quite a lot is create a story. So,
mhm,
most people do bedtime stories. We'll do like a story from a book, and then we'll do like an AI story. And that's when I can really get into their imagination, right? They can make this story about anything possible. And then we kind of are doing that a lot. Been doing that for probably over the last year. But now we're starting to bring that into like imagery. So we can
mhm,
actually book, and they can make their own books about their stories, where they can see they always do it about, three of them, like, as, siblings, and they go on ventures together and they bring in their friends. So now we can start bringing that in, and we can make comic versions of it, real life versions of it, soon
mhm,
videos of it. And that's kind of something that I'm really passionate about doing because, I think that the world's changing so rapidly at the moment. And, I think that a lot of people are scared by AI and what it can do, and I share some of those concerns. There is a scary time as well, but it's also an incredibly exciting time where we can adopt this period in our life, which is going to be the most transformative that we've ever witnessed or seen in the history of our existence. Um, and I want them to kind of be comfortable with that, familiar with it, and embracing that.
mhm. Yeah, it's kinda like, I mean, sure, there's a lot of potential scary things, but, um, can any one of us individually probably stop it? I don't know about you. I don't really think I can probably prevent the things that are scary if they happen. So my perspective has been like, let's have as much fun with this as possible and see what we can dream up. And if it all goes to crap, well, shucks. But let's let's have fun while we go down in flames if we do, rather than just being
Uh,
freaked out. And
uh,
there's a chance we won't, and then things will turn out great. So.
yeah, and I'm an optimist by nature as well, and I always kind of try and look in that light. And I think that there are things, unfortunately, sometimes it takes drastic things to happen to make drastic changes. And I don't think we'll see any changes that we need to see until those drastic things happen. Just the
Yeah.
reality of
Yeah. So real quick, and then if you want to share where people can find stuff, that'd be cool. But with you said with your kids, you're making stories. Do you typically just have them like give you details that they want in the story, and then you have AI kind of weave it, or do you do it a different way? Like, what's your approach for that?
Yes, so it could be as simple as, like, I'll frame it with for like a ChatGPT, for example, and I'll say, like, build a story suitable for like a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, um, and and I'll give like certain prompts so that all I need is the storyline that they give me, and it's going to create a perfect kind of, adventure for them. Um, so I kind of like do the basic prompts to kind of outline it,
Mhm.
and then they will kind of feed in exactly what happens. But I'd ask them questions. I'm there to make them think about it, right? So
Yeah.
so and that's the most important thing is because ChatGPT isn't gonna say these things to you to kind of get you to think like in a certain way, but I'm there to kind of guide them and get them push them to think in a certain way. And I can also bring in aspects of their life to make it kind of even more enjoyable for them. It's all about asking the right questions to them to get the right outcomes that they can
Mhm.
then into
And
ChatGPT.
what are some of the types of prompts that you're giving to them? What sort of questions are you asking?
So, I think, to be honest, right now we're kind of at a stage where they're quite free flowing because
Yeah.
when you
Yeah, it's
ask the
awesome.
question enough, they just know what to say and they know how to go about it. So they're prompting, especially my 7-year-old. He's like just amazing. He was designed to a T what's in his head. My 4-year-old is on kind of that journey. So I'll
Mhm.
just ask him like questions when he kind of says something. I'll ask him kind of questions about, um, okay, well, what happens then, or like,
Mhm.
again, like what environment, or what language are they speaking? What kind of voice do they have?
Sure. Okay.
and kind of like do those kind of prompts. But it's all framed already by like, creating a book for my 7-year-old and 4-year-old where they have a crazy adventure, make it exciting, make it engaging, and last for 5 minutes, wherever it may be. I try, different things. So yeah, I definitely kind of, would encourage that. And I think there is, obviously from a design perspective, there's lots of like really amazing tools that they can start playing with. They love, like, their favorite thing to do on the weekends is sit down with me and just like make some videos on VO3 right now. They love it. And I obviously like that. Again, they always know like we only ever do it for like 15 minutes at a time, maybe 20 minutes tops. But it's a really good thing for them to start tapping into, when you use it in the right way, obviously.
Yeah, that's fun. I think there are so many opportunities with like to make childhood even more exciting and fun and interesting and all of that with AI. And I've been exploring that a little bit, like with my nieces and nephews. The other day, I was having them like find bugs, and I take a picture and have it converted into basically like a Pokemon card, and you can
Yeah.
print them out, and you can play a game. We haven't played a game with it quite yet, but that was kind of the seed of the idea. I thought that could be cool, but there's so many different things you could do.
Yeah, I mean, we go for forest walks by us, and we kind of went there and like looked for different types of mushrooms,
Yeah.
and then like just ask the AI, okay, well, what's safe to eat and what's not, and all these things.
Mhm.
We didn't eat any of it just in case, because obviously it's not entirely accurate, but some things that we kind of discovered is pretty amazing, and birds and type of trees and all these things. So when used in the right way as an education tool, that's incredibly powerful as well. So yeah, when you can take something that is kind of something every day and bring that into like their reality, like a Pokemon card, that's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. Well, we are up on time here. So if people want to find you, if they like, what's your message to the world? Where can they go?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, I'm coming on podcasts like this to really bring an awareness to breath work, and specifically functional breath work. So, hopefully kind of people have found that kind of helpful, and some of the lessons that they can bring into their everyday life. If people do want to go deeper, we have like the 5.5 app. That's spelled FIVE, 5.5. And that basically allows people from all levels, beginner plus, intermediate and advanced, to come into the app and either focus on mind, body, on sleep. So that could be performing better, recovering faster, sleeping more solidly, enhancing their quality of sleep. It could even be like managing stress, managing anxiety, being more focused. So we have kind of a wealth of different techniques in there, and then when they plug into the wearable, they can obviously see the benefits of the measurability and the impact on their physiology as well through those biometrics. So yeah, if people kind of want to go deeper, they can go to. We're only in the US at the moment on the App Store. We'll be going global very soon. Maybe by the time this podcast is actually out.
Yeah, probably. I was gonna say it'll probably be 6-8 months. Really.
But yeah, we'll be out. In that case, yeah, we'll definitely be global. So yeah, then go on the App Store, check out 5.5, and yeah, I hope they enjoy the experience. Everyone can try it for free as well. We'll always kind of have that free trial element, so people can try it, make sure it kind of is right for them.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'll try it out and potentially share thoughts if I remember to on the podcast later.
Yeah, we'll chat, I'm sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Adam. This was fun.
Likewise. Thanks, Collin. Take care. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
The Superhuman Academy podcast is hosted by Collin Jewett and designed and edited by Army Cinco, with original music by Joshua Shunig and voiceovers by Corey Page Shunig. That's me. You can find past episodes and resources, as well as access to the ever-growing Superhuman Academy community at superhumanacademy.com. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice.